Ball has a salary cap.
Okay.
They have an X amount that they can use for players, and that's it.
Well, now, but now in football, there is no salary cap.
There's no salary cap. And they're working on that. Baseball, that's one of the biggest problems with the strike. They do not want a salary cap. But I think to stay in business, they're going to have to get a salary cap. It'll everybody be working in the red.
Now, what does it mean not to have a salary cap in baseball?
Well, it's wide open. You know, you can go crazy. And some of the small franchises in baseball, like small markets like Milwaukee and places like that, Montreal, they don't have the income.
Okay.
It'll run them out of the business.
And so only
Seattle's another one suffering right now.
Only the big teams,
the big guys, the rich stay richer. They stay richer.
And that's it. And so the idea of putting a cap on what the baseball players
some parity.
Okay.
It makes everything fairly even.
Give everybody an opportunity. Levels the floor.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, well, within the framework of your baseball career, and certainly you've been keeping up with baseball, what do you think in terms of this strike? I mean, who is actually benefiting from what is going on?
I think there's a lot of wrong with both. I think there's a little greed maybe with the baseball players, and I hope they get together because I think they're depriving our public of baseball. I'm a great baseball fan, and I hope they can get together. And I see President Clinton and his people are trying to get in, and I don't know if that's right or wrong. But I hope they get together on it because I think it's the great pastime, and I think we need it. It's good for our nation.
Well, when you talk about baseball, and I think that most of us probably are not sophisticated in terms of our knowledge of baseball. Certainly it's a 9-man game and somebody's on all of the bases and you've got 3 men in the field. But it seems to me that there's much more to it.
It's a finesse game. A lot of people do not like baseball because they do not understand.
Okay.
It's a finesse game. You have to have the skills. And I think we're talking about Michael Jordan coming to Nashville, and I think the biggest thing Michael's having trouble is hitting that baseball. I think that is the toughest athletic skill to perform.
To hit the baseball.
That baseball. You know, they're turning that ball on you. They're curving and making it go this way, that way, and I think that's the big thing. A lot of guys call home and say, Mom, I'm coming home to start to throw the curveball. And I think that's the biggest thing, speaking of Michael in baseball, that Michael's having trouble with. And
you think that if he can overcome that. Now, well, you had an opportunity to see him as an NBA coach. And now what were some of your evaluations in terms of his basketball?
Best basketball player I've ever seen.
That's...
Yeah, Michael is the greatest competitor I've ever seen. Michael could do it all. And he played from one end of the court to the other. Great defender, could block shots, and then he was Mr. Excitement. Then he put people in your ballpark.
You know, Coach, I think that certainly you deal with the academics of it and understand the importance of academics and athletics. And of course, let's talk about it from that perspective, because I think that in the NBA, no, I'm sorry, the NCAA, that there's been a number of issues raised dealing with Proposition 48 and 16 and et cetera, and et cetera. What are some of your thoughts in reference to that, and especially some of the ideas that perhaps in some areas the standards might be raised to such a level that it actually will, that they will actually keep some of the more deserving players?
Well, I think, as you know, you're an academic man, that I don't think you can really judge potential on exams. Minorities, and in particular blacks, do not test that well because of their backgrounds. And I hate to see them continue to raise the standards to deprive these kids of the education. But I think you must have standards.
Okay,
now,
very good.
Let's stay within some boundaries.
And so overall, in terms of the NCAA's most recent movement, I think that that's Proposition 16.
Yeah, well, they're fighting, they're fighting, and I think they moved it back for a year.
Oh, so they've decided...
They're investigating. They're not going to throw it on you right now, but there's a lot of fighting going on. And the Black Coaches Association, they're fighting like the devil. They don't want these youngsters deprived of an opportunity. And I've had experience with a lot of youngsters who may not have tested that well, but they had potential and they're out as successful.
Desire can often...
Potential, you know, you can't judge potential. And a lot of youngsters I had, they're out doing well. And when I was at Tennessee State, they did a survey on a 10-year period, USA, and we had more graduation than anybody in the state because we put the emphasis on academics as well as athletics.
Very good.
He's a student athlete, and we held him to being a student athlete. And there are a lot of schools now, I hate to say it, they're not interested in nothing but the youngster playing basketball or football, and I call that prostitution.
You know, Coach, I think we've had an opportunity, you've had an opportunity over the years that you've been involved in athletics to meet a number of significant personalities. Certainly you worked with John Merritt as well as Coach Gentry and whatnot. Let's have you to, during these last few minutes that we have, to talk about some of those personalities from your perspective. I mean, what did they do in terms of helping you out? And
well, one of the reasons I came to Tennessee State was to make up their athletic department with the ringmaster, Howard Gentry, and then you had John Merritt and Ed Temple there. Hey, we had some glory years, and they were great to work with. And the thing that made us work so well together, we had a lot of security within the three of us. We helped each other. Like during football season, John would help me recruit basketball players, and same thing we do with Ed Temple. And Ed was very instrumental in setting up my running programs and things like that. Nobody was that big, and we worked together. And I think in an athletic department, especially departments like Tennessee State, you must work together to survive.
And of course, you've been involved in a large number of athletic departments, and you've seen all of
Well, I worked at South Carolina State and Tennessee State and Vanderbilt, and it was the same story. I've been very fortunate to run into good people to work with. That's what makes it go.
And the personalities like the Gentrys and the Merritts
and the Temples, and I've been very fortunate.
You know, Coach, I think that the death of Coach Gentry sort of will sort of give us all an opportunity to sort of reflect upon what he's been able to do.
He was a great man. He was the type of person gave Tennessee State a lot of credibility. He was one of the most prominent athletic directors in the country. I didn't say black or white, an athletic director, and he's received that way. He was the type of guy, when he went to NCAA convention, when he got up on the floor, he had everybody's ear because they knew where he was coming from. He had credibility, and I think he gave athletics at Tennessee State credibility. And one of his great things was to get Tennessee State in the conference, and I think they're reaping the benefits of that now by getting in the OVC. And OVC, I think, is the greatest thing they've ever done. When I was there, when we went to Division I, we were independent, and that's like kissing your sister. You couldn't get ball games or anything. They're in a conference now. You have a schedule. See, in January and February, when I was there in Division I, we couldn't get any games. And OVC, I think, is a great conference, and they have a great commissioner in Dan Beebe. And I think they're reaping a lot of benefits.
And so there's been quite a benefit. As a matter of fact, it was Coach Gentry who came out of retirement.
That's right, to get him in the OVC. He was a dreamer.